Right, so here we are in the kitchen with our lovely prime fillet of a Highland cow, ready to get started on our beef Wellington. So I think we ought to make a go of it. First, what I'm going to do is season the beef with a nice bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper to keep it moist and keep all those lovely flavours and juices in whilst we're cooking. So first we'll drizzle a little olive oil on the one side, nice bit of olive oil there, and some salt and pepper as well. Okay, rub it in. Really get that flavour going, and you want to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Okay, nice bit of olive oil again, and some salt and pepper, and then rub that in, making sure that it gets everywhere so that all the beef is good and covered. And now we have to seal it in a really hot frying pan to keep all those flavours that we've just put into the beef nice and moist and tender inside. So we'll take it to a hot frying pan now. You want to put the beef in, being careful of the spitting hot fat. And press it down to make sure all those edges are nicely sealed. And then we'll be turning the meat over, being careful of your fingers. Make sure it does the same thing on the other side. Roll it over slightly so that you get all those edges in. Ideally, possibly a pair of tongs might help in this instance, but I've got asbestos fingers, which means I can do it without. And then you want to pick up the beef and do it on the ends as well, just to keep those flavours sealed. Right, now the beef is seared on all sides, what you want to do is take it out, put it on a baking tray and leave it to rest whilst you get on with the filling and the pastry. So I'll place it on the table here to cool down. And maybe let's just shut that. There we go. We'll use that frying pan in just a minute for the mushrooms, which I'll get on with now. Right. You'll see that I've already pre-chopped a lot of my mushrooms, but if I just show you, I'm cutting them finely because many people, when making a beef Wellington, they like to use a dehydrated mushroom paste. Well, as we'll be using pâté on the pastry later, I think that actually I want the texture of the mushrooms, which we'll put in the pan now. Add the garlic and give it a good stir to infuse the flavour. Once that's nicely browned, then put in the mushrooms. There you go. Stir those in as well, making sure they all get coated in butter. And then we'll add the nutmeg, which I've pre-grated, and a little bit of thyme and some chopped parsley, which I've also pre-cut here for ease of cooking. Okay. That needs a good stir, and then they need to be left on the hob for about 10 minutes, just so they sweat down and you're left with a little bit of the texture still, but lots of delicious flavours. Right, now that the mushrooms have had their 10 minutes simmering on the hob, we can leave them here to cool whilst we assemble the pastry and the pâté with the bacon on top to place the mushrooms on afterwards. Just close the hob and then we'll get on with that. Right, let me go and find the pastry. Pre-rolled pastry is a godsend. Now what we need to do is flour our board so that the pastry doesn't stick. And then we'll roll it out. Or rather we don't roll it out. Somebody's done that for me already. there. We're going to be putting on a delicious Highland game pâté now that will hopefully provide lots of flavours in our meat. There we go. Try and spread it nice and evenly. I don't think you want the jelly from the pâté. I'm not sure how much that would add to the flavour, but it looks pretty when it's in the shop. So there we go. We'll put there like that. Next you want to have bacon. Again, I got this from a nice local butcher, so it's going to be very tasty. And stretch that out over the pastry so that when you wrap your beef, it'll surround it. There we go, last one there. Just tuck that in the bin down there. Okay, now we'll take the mushroom mix and we'll apply it. I think probably it's best to put it down the centre, because then when we wrap the beef in it, hopefully it should come out somewhere near the top of the beef if it hasn't slipped too much during cooking. Right, there we go, I'll put that back there. Now if we just lie that in a line there, and now get the lovely Highland beef fillet placed in the centre. Now I'm going to have to add a little bit of pastry here because my fillet's a bit chubby to fit in one piece of pastry, so I've carefully pre-cut a line of pastry. What I've done is score the edges slightly so that when I stick some egg wash down, hopefully that will mean that we get a better seal on the beef. Okay, do that there. So tuck it in. You want to try and seal it as well as you possibly can, so that when the beef is cooking, none of the air escapes and it saves all the juices inside. There we go. Tuck the rest of that up. And what we're going to do when we cook the beef is we'll actually flip it over so that you won't even see the line. And I think that will look much nicer. So seal at the ends. What I'll do now is prepare an egg wash, just so that, as I say, it'll be somewhat like glue for the pastry. There we go. You have to whisk that up. Doesn't need a great whisk. Tuck that in there. And I've got my pastry brush ready to use on the beef. Now you want to apply it along the seam of the beef where you've put the two pieces of pastry together, and in the corners as well. So that's like glue, and make sure that you don't lose any of the juices when it's cooking. Once you're satisfied that all the seams are stuck down, what you need to do next is turn the beef over to put it into the roasting tin. Now, hopefully this little trick of mine will work, whereby I use a sheet of greaseproof paper to hopefully make it not stick. Put it back into the baking tray it came out of, upend it over the beef, and fingers crossed by using the blue sheet it came on initially, we can flip it up and it should stay in. Wonderful. What we need to do now is egg wash the top of the beef Wellington and then maybe apply some decorations. So now I'll set about making a few little stars, I think, as decorations. Let me go and find my cutter.